It's Tuesday, October 26th, and the time for your Barbados Today morning news update. A University of the West Indies School of Tourism named after the founder of the iconic Sandals Hotel brand could be up and running by the next school year. The Butch Stewart International School of Hospitality and Tourism, to be established in Jamaica, is a UWI partnership with the all-inclusive resort chain and the Florida International University's Chaplin School of Hospitality and Tourism Management. UWI Vice-Chancellor Professor Sir Hilary Beckles signed the agreement to establish the school with Chairman of Sandals Resorts International Adam Stewart, who is the son of the late Butch Stewart. Sir Hilary said the school was coming at a time when the region must reimagine, reinvent, and re-energize Caribbean tourism.
What we're witnessing here is really part of the preparation for post-COVID takeoff. We know how this pandemic has severely damaged our tourism industry and the consequences of that. This region has lost 80% of its GDP. The core industry in this region has been ravished. But what we are looking at here is a strategy that moves us into the future at a higher level of performance. Tourism is at once a profession that requires sophisticated practice, and this is what Sandals represents. But it also requires ongoing research, higher education, research and planning, and that is an academic function that cannot stand in isolation. So ideally, the industry is best served by the mobilization of the research potential around tourism, as well the teaching and learning, of course, as well as the elegance of professional practice, how you manage an institution of this kind. It's a global project, and therefore it has to be global. And what we have recognized in UWI, after 45 to 50 years of teaching and researching tourism and hospitality, that if you don't integrate your academic practice with those persons, those entrepreneurial leaders, those people who are actually doing it and bringing the economic value, unless you integrate those two processes, you will never meet your full potential. And this is what this is all about.
Meantime, Stewart said there was no better way to celebrate his father's legacy than by working with the universities to ensure the sustainable development of the region's tourism through training and investment in young talent.
This is the world's leading Caribbean hospitality enterprise coming together with two of the finest academia institutions on planet Earth who specialize in hospitality, who have recognized that together we will achieve more. And what we're simply doing here is preparing the next generation for the industry that is going to be the catalyst for not only tourism, but for everything around tourism, for entertainment, for construction, for engineering, for, of course, food and beverage, for supply chain, for everything of the thousands of moving parts that create the ecosystem of Caribbean tourism that allows 30 million people a year to come to our shores.
Lobby groups for parents and students concerned about some of this year's CXC exam results met with officials from the Ministry of Education, including Education Minister Santia Bradshaw, over the weekend. And the group of concerned parents of Barbados and the Caribbean Coalition for CXC Redress are reporting that the ministry declared that it will represent the interests of students who sat the exam. Spokesperson for the group of concerned parents of Barbados, Paula Ann Moore, described the meeting as productive.
We are in the process of gathering further information nationally and regionally and will defer a more fulsome comment on the 2021 CXC results until that process is complete. We are pleased that we were part of a productive meeting led by the Minister of Education and her Chief Education Officer, who listened and were receptive to the concerns of the national education stakeholders and committed to leading the national engagement with CXC to advocate for better communication, accountability, and fairness for disadvantaged children re the 2020 and 2021 CXC exams, and also to ensure that there is adequate and optimal preparation for the 2022 exams. Our immediate top line assessment is that there are subjects whose grades are again significantly depressed, though nowhere near the widespread scale of 2020. There are some grades which are still outstanding.
Officials are hoping that the Bridgetown sewage treatment plant will be able to produce water safe enough to be used for groundwater return and irrigation. But according to them, financing from the Green Climate Fund would be needed to make the project a reality. At present, the treatment plant serves only as a secondary plant, which allows the treated water to only be reused for a few purposes. Technical advisor to the Barbados Water Authority Board, Dr. John Wanzer, during a tour of the plant on Monday with Executive Director of the Green Climate Fund, Dr. Yannick Glemarek, and several ministers and officials, pointed out that Barbados had very limited capacity in terms of water augmentation, and as a water-scarce country only had the options of reused treated wastewater or desalination. Advisor to the government, Dr. Usili, who was also on the tour, said financing from the Green Climate Fund would go a long way in helping the treatment plant provide thousands of gallons of additional water to the public.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Hi, my name is Michelle Thompson. I'm a visually impaired person. I am also a member of the National United Society of the Blind of Barbados. I am vaccinated. I took the vaccination due to the fact that I am diabetic, I'm asthmatic, and I also have high blood pressure. I had no side effects. Everything went calm and smooth, as my doctor said it would go. Please, people, go ahead and do the right thing.
Let's roll up our sleeves and get back to living.
To developments in the region, thousands of students from select grade levels returned to the physical classrooms on Monday in St. Lucia following disruptions by the COVID-19 pandemic. More in this report from HTS News Force.
A phased approach to the restart of school saw thousands of students heading back into the physical buildings. Minister for Education, Sean Edward, thinks it's a watershed moment for the education sector. The fourth wave of the pandemic caused a major setback to the school year.
We're hoping that in the coming days, if not coming week, that the report coming from the Ministry of Health is such that we can be in a position to reintegrate all the students who are still at home.
The Dennery North MP also found time throughout the day to navigate the various learning centers around the island. The visits were aimed at touching base with principals and teachers to assess the COVID-19 protocols at the various schools.
Today is particularly special for our kindergarteners because for the first time they will actually set foot on their quote-unquote new schools, and I must tell you the interaction with them this morning has been fantastic. They bring energy and they bring a freshness that the education system has been yielding for some time now.
And finally, there is a need for the world to reduce emissions as fast as possible. That's according to the World Meteorological Organization's Chief of Atmospheric and Environmental Research Division, Dr. Oksana Tarasova. She issued the warning at the presentation of this year's Greenhouse Gas Bulletin at the United Nations in Geneva.
we need to reduce emissions as fast as possible. When countries are taking commitments to be carbon neutral, atmosphere gives us a very clear signal that commitments should be converted into something which we can see in the atmosphere. If we don't see our, let's say, at least the decreasing growth rate of the major greenhouse gases, we cannot actually declare the success in the climate agenda. And we are making measurements and we are providing objective information on what is going on in the atmosphere. So commitments should be followed by the actions.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.